All right, so today I want to talk about a couple things that I've been going through. I don't know how to. I'm kind of not. I'm a little nervous talking about this kind of thing. Not really, but just a little bit because it's not exactly something that some people frown upon what I'm about to say. Um, but I recently quit smoking cigarettes, and I didn't really go like your typical route into doing that. As of today, we have 7 days of not smoking, so I made it a full week, completely cold turkey. I didn't. Um, I tried for a long time. I was like trying to quit smoking. I don't know, for the last 10 years. I remember my wife when we got married. We've been married for 10 years now, and even before our wedding, my wife wanted me to quit smoking, and she said she wanted me to try to quit by our wedding, and felt like shit because I couldn't. It was really hard. I ended up not being able to do it. I tried every way that I could think of, and none of them worked. So then, when we had our first kid, same thing. She wanted me to quit smoking, and I wanted to, and I couldn't. Um, I never smoke around our kids. Our kids don't even know that I smoke or that I did smoke because I don't anymore. I wouldn't smoke in the car. I wouldn't smoke in the house. I wouldn't smoke anywhere near the kids. Um, so at least I didn't like kind of pass it on to them. Um, because I do feel like I was born addicted to cigarettes and smoking. My dad smoked, still does. He's also trying to quit now. But I grew up in the era where you could smoke damn near everywhere. When I was a kid, um, all the restaurants. You go out to a restaurant with your family, there's a smoking and non-smoking section. And if you had family members that were smokers, you were sitting in the non-smoking section, or I'm sorry, the smoking section. You smoked in the car, you smoked in the house, smoked all around. Anywhere that you could, anywhere that you would be, you would smoke. Um, so I think it's funny. I was talking to my sister about quitting because she quit already, but she's the one that kind of made me realize that I think we were born addicted to smoking cigarettes, or at least nicotine, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, for me, I first started smoking when I was in eighth grade, and I wasn't like a pack a day smoker back then, but I became one now. So from the time I was 13, 14 until now, I'm 36. Um, I from that point when I started until now, gradually worked up to a pack a day. And I really wanted to quit smoking for probably half that time, where I really, really was like, man, I got to stop this shit. I'm getting older. I got to a point where I was like, well, I'm not terribly old. When I was 25, I was like, oh, I'll stop when I'm 25. Then I turned 35 and I'm like, fuck. But, I'm 36 and I quit. I'm 100% sure too is the other thing. Um, there was one time, I think in 2017, that I quit for about a month. And I would call that quitting, but I did, occasionally, if I was around someone that was smoking, I would be like, hey, give me a drag of that. I wouldn't smoke a whole cigarette, but, I would, kind of maintenance my addiction by, trying to be around people that were smoking so that I could, you know, get my nicotine that way. Or, even like just drag, take a drag here and there. That was and I did that for about a month. And I would say that was the most successful that I ever been, aside from this week where I haven't had a drag. I haven't bought any. I even um, today someone was smoking by me and they left a pack of cigarettes like right next to me, and I was like, oh, I could go grab a smoke. In my head, because this is a thing. People don't look at smoking cigarettes as an addiction, but it's an addiction just as bad as any other one. Um, Health wise, obviously you're not in a mind frame where you're gonna be doing some of the stuff that like a crack addict would do or anything. But you know, given the right circumstances, I think a nicotine addict would do some of that stuff. Um, Maybe not, but I really feel like. But anyway, so yeah, like I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, there's a pack of cigarettes right there. I could just grab one cigarette. I can go smoke it. No one's gonna know that I smoked it. And then, in the past when I was trying to quit and I would get to that point, I would grab the cigarette and I would smoke it. Um, I didn't do that this time because it wasn't good enough for me that nobody else was around. The fact that I knew that I smoked that cigarette, if I smoked that cigarette, would have was enough for me to be like, no, I'm not doing it. I've got a full week, a real week too. Now I'm not bullshitting myself about like, oh well, I'm taking a drag. Maybe two drags or three drags a day. That's not quitting. Quitting is quitting. Um, so I didn't. This is like a legit like I quit, but I feel it. Whereas like before, if I got a full day, I'd be like, well, I'm just gonna, tomorrow morning I'm gonna grab a cigarette. I'm gonna smoke one cigarette tomorrow morning, and that's it. And then that didn't happen this time. I did not smoke at all. But I feel like I'm not going to ever. It's pretty cool. So now I'm going to tell you how I did this, and before I go into this, I want to make it clear I am not advising anybody to do this, um, because it's illegal. Number one. Number two, I although I don't believe that there's actual psychological effects that can occur, um, on a grand large scale. I understand that not everybody is the same as me. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I'm definitely not going to advise anybody to do something that a doctor would have a hard time telling you to do. But um, I decided that I would try to quit smoking by using psilocybin mushrooms. And I got to tell you, like, for me, it worked. I don't know if, could we, here's the thing. I read some things that were saying psilocybin mushrooms can help you uh, curb addiction, and smoking cessation is one of those. So I was like, cessation, whatever. So I was like, I tried the patch, didn't work. I tried the gum, I tried the inhaler, I tried the lozenges. The only thing I didn't do was like Chantix or some of like the uh like pharmaceuticals. I guess I'm not really big on medicine. I'm not I don't even take Tylenol or Advil or anything like that if I have like a headache or something. So for me to take something, anything really. I mean, even psilocybin mushrooms was kind of a leap for me. But it's something that I always wanted to do since I was. If you check out my Substack, I kind of wrote a little bit about that. But it's something that I wanted to do for a long time. Some kind of psychedelics. I understood I wanted to try some kind of psychedelics. When I was younger, I read The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, and that really got me thinking about these things, psychedelics in particular. But I grew up in a family that was, full of alcoholics and, in Alcoholics Anonymous and that kind of thing. Um, I grew up around addicts, crackheads, ex-crackheads, ex-heroin addicts, ex-alcoholics. So I had this kind of idea in my mind that I would try to that I wanted to try psychedelics because the way that Aldous Huxley portrayed his mescaline trip in The Doors of Perception, really intriguing to me. And I read that when I was about maybe 13 or 14 years old, and I was like, wow, that sounds very interesting. But I never did because I was nervous that you know, sitting outside of AA meetings when I was a kid, I would hear all the horror stories that the guys were telling, and I never wanted to be in that position, and to be honest with you, I'm very glad that I had that opportunity in my life to sit there and listen to those guys. because I honestly believe because of them I haven't been addicted to anything aside from cigarettes. Um, but I was never really like I was not a I'm not a drug guy. I'm not. I like to drink my beer and get stupid sometimes with that, but that's it. But the thing is, because I grew up listening to all the horror stories from all the ex addicts, those were always in the back of my mind. Like if I was at a bar with my friends and I felt like I should probably stop drinking, then I did. But I still had fun. I was still hung around the bar. I still, I'd order a Coke or a water, and I would still have fun with my friends, and I wouldn't get to that point where I needed to continue to drink. And I can definitely unequivocally attribute that to all the alcoholics and addicts that I was around growing up. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Your mistakes made me not make my own. Um, with that being said, I was really intrigued by psychedelics, and you know as I started getting older and I started getting into the meditation that I do and all that kind of stuff, and really reading about psychology because I'm a really big psychology guy. Um, I read as much as I can about those topics. Um, when I was in high school, I read the DSM-4, whatever it was, to try to understand all that kind of thing. I'm a plumber. I never went to college or anything like that, but um, I did have things that did kind of interest me, and uh, psychology was one of them. Um, and obviously meditation and that kind of thing. But what I'm trying to say is that like once I started getting into this kind of mind frame of uh meditation and like really understanding myself and understanding my flaws and my insecurities and even what makes me happy. I started kind of getting into this position where I was like, you know what, I think I'm mentally able to try uh s- some sort of psychedelic. I'm not really into chemicals, so LSD was like never really my thing. And I know it's synthesized. Um, what is it, ergot or whatever? But that for me, it's like I don't like chemicals. If I'm not taking Tylenol for a headache, I'm not going to take LSD to trip or have the psychological effects that it does. Whatever. No matter what So I mean, I was looking at like peyote, and peyote just felt dirty to me to do on my own because it's kind of an indigenous thing, and I didn't want to step on their toes. From my understanding, it's not very easy to get peyote either. Um, there is other forms of psychedelics. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I chose psilocybin mushrooms because there's been studies uh, uh, performed recently with the effects of psilocybin. And I think what they were doing is they were actually taking like the pure psilocybin. I don't know if it was what's the word? Uh I can't think of it right now, but I don't think it was made like in a lab. I think they extract it from the mushrooms and they take like the pure form of it. So in the studies they say like they get, I think it's milligrams that they give people um, in the therapeutic sessions that I was reading about. But I don't have a laboratory, so I just got a hold of some mushrooms and ate them. But I really like kind of learned and studied about them prior to just I didn't just like get mushrooms and eat them and be like, oh, what's gonna happen? No, like for months, this was a months long journey for me once I decided that mushrooms was going to be it, because I had the whole need to the yearning, I guess, to try some kind of psychedelic before. But that was kind of like I kind of feel like my whole life up until I took my first trip was getting me ready to take my first trip or to take my second one or third one or fourth, fifth. um I'm very sure of myself now. I've been in a good place for a while mentally. Um, but sometimes you need a little kick in the ass to kind of push yourself along to get over the hurdle. So that's what what I chose was psilocybin mushrooms, and I'm just gonna kind of talk about that now. So at first, um, because I never did anything like that before, I was like, well, I can't just take them and expect to not smoke anymore. So what I did was I kind of I kind of leveled up over the course of uh, a few months to er, to get to where I am right now. So at first, I'm not going to talk about like actual doses that I took, like what the amount was or anything like that. But I will say the first trip that I took, um, I was kind of like, okay, I need to see what this is about. So I'm not going to go balls to the wall and just take like the biggest dose ever. Like I want to see what this is. Maybe this isn't for me, so I'm going to start small. And I didn't start as small as they say. I kind of started like, you know, two and a half times bigger than what they say that you should for your first one. But I think that was for me was just because I know myself and I know what my mind is capable of. That I was willing to kind of go go against what some other people's better judgments. Like I understand why they do that, but I know myself, so I wasn't too concerned. And the first trip was like, holy smokes, this is like crazy. Like I'm starting to understand a lot of things. I'm starting to kind of uh it was kind of like the icebreaker, it wasn't a high dose, but I did jump in and with both feet, just like, okay, what is this gonna be like? I was just like, I laid down on my bed, I put my headphones on, I put shuffled iTunes and just sat there and listened to music for the most part. Went and looked at my fish tank for a while. It was kind of cool. I felt really happy. I was in a good place. That was the other thing. Set and setting, they always say, is a very important thing, and it definitely is an important thing. My first trip, it was like, I didn't even plan it, because I feel like in order to have a perfect set and setting, you can't just say, okay, on the 25th of this month, at this particular time, I'm going to take mushrooms and it's going to be great. No, you have to make sure that you feel good mentally, um, and physically. You want to have it be a good day, the whole day too, not just like the couple hours leading up to it. Like you want the whole day to be good. And the reason for that is because the doors in your mind start opening, uh, whether or not you turn the knob. And you damn well better know what's behind some of the doors in your mind if you want to do something like this. That's why I'm saying, like, I do not advise this at all to anybody, especially without doing some kind of introspective meditating, uh, you know, self aware kind of work. If you don't do that, don't take mushrooms. Don't take any psychedelics for sure. Absolutely not. But even if you do that, I'm not advising you to do that. So yeah, so the first one, I was, I saw like colors, like I was kind of like, oh wow, I get what the hippies are talking about now. And my art, by the way, like I've done this before. I did not that one. That one was after, but these two up here and the ones that I have like that, like I have always kind of done that kind of art. So that's not a result. This one is over here, but those two are not a result from, all this. But yeah, so I started seeing like I had closed eye visuals. And I was seeing like the, geometric, like fractal kind of colorful stuff that you saw. Uh some mild synesthesia, so I was able to, like, my wife turned on the light in the bathroom and it shined across the hallway and I felt it like brush up against me. Before my eyes saw that it was, when your eyes are closed and a light turns on, you can see it. Um, I didn't see that. I felt it and then I saw it. So that was like kind of cool. I dwelled on that thought for a while. My second trip was more like an exploratory kind of thing. Like, okay, now that I know more or less what it feels like, um, I'm gonna try different things to see how my actions and my thoughts around those actions kind of uh, change the experience. So, and I took a little more than I did the first time as well. Um, so I was just doing like a bunch of things. I think I smoked. I was up all night one night, so, which is a pretty common thing for me when I barbecue a lot and I smoke ribs and that kind of thing, and I'll stay up all night doing that. Um, so I figured since I was going to be up all night smoking ribs anyway, I might as well take some mushrooms and see what that gets me. And that was kind of cool because I realized that like your the intention really matters too, because it took a long time to like kick in, which I was kind of shocked because I was like, well, I took more than I took last time. Um, and I know like the psilocybin in each mushroom kind of varies depending on the mushroom. It's not like you get X amount in each mushroom. It's like some have more, some have less. So I knew that probably maybe I took some that had less than, or so I thought had less of the active compound that than the previous time, but that turned out to not be true, because it took a lot longer to get there. But I think that was because my mind was preoccupied with the ribs and just like trying to find things to do to see how it was. But once I realized, okay, my attention is not at my attention isn't towards the mushrooms, so the mushrooms are going to be like, you know what, I'm not going to show you anything. I'm not going to be a part of this because you don't you took me, but you're not giving me the respect I deserve or whatever. Uh so it took that's why I think it took a long time before it actually did anything. And I got to say that that second time was really cool because um I was able to experiment with things, and I wasn't scared the first time, but the second time I was like, um the fear of the unknown isn't exactly there anymore. I mean, it is because I didn't take like this heroic dose or anything the first time, so I knew that I was taking more and that it could be a little different because of that. But it wasn't. I still had the introspective thoughts and everything. I still kind of went into different aspects of like my personality and my past, and I kind of really tried to see what these certain memories that were popping up were trying to show me or help me through, which was cool. The third trip I took, and each one of these is not like, you know, from day to day. I mean, I got the shortest amount of time between trips that I had was 10 days. And then it went to 14 days, 15 days, and 20 days. I for a total of five trips altogether. Um, with my goal being to quit smoking. But I didn't want to just jump right into it and, take a dose that would really get me to where I thought it would help me. Like I would just quit smoking instantly after this last time or whatever. I wanted to make sure that, I didn't put myself in a bad position. So I was taking, getting used to, okay, this amount kind of made me feel like that. Let's try a little more. 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 And I got to the point on the fifth one we'll talk. But the third one, I really started kind of like, okay, now that I know more or less what these two trips, these two previous trips feel like and showed me and everything. Now I'm going to start doing more kind of like, I want to know about existence and life and the connectedness of everything. And that was kind of my goal for my third trip, was just really understanding like the spiritual aspect of it, which is always a big thing for me. I'm a really big spiritual guy. I'm very curious when it comes to spirituality, religions, not only my religion but everyone else's, ancient religions, religions that you don't really know too much about, I'm really interested because I know from what it seems to me, like all these religions have a lot of key components, share a lot of key components with each other. So I kind of, my third trip, I kind of paid attention more to that, um, and got a lot of good answers as far as what you know what I was thinking about certain things. But this video is not really about that. Maybe I'll do another video, depending on how this one is received. Going more into detail of other aspects of it. But I was really like I really wanted to talk about like the quitting smoking because this is something that um, I think could benefit a lot of people if the scientists and doctors and everything actually um, put people ahead of profits. And because I mean the reality is I it took 5 trips for me to quit smoking completely. Um, and I know for sure that I'm a week in, and I have no doubt in my mind that I quit forever. Um, so how can a pharmaceutical company be like, okay? And I'm sure like if I went straight away and took the last dose that I did, maybe I would have quit smoking right then and there. I don't know, but the way I did it, I mean, 5 treatments of something is far less than having to take a pill every day, profit wise. So I hope that doctors and scientists and everything and governments start allowing people to kind of um, use plant medicine to help themselves out because I, without a doubt in my mind, know that they work, especially for quitting smoking at least. But so let's see, the fourth one was like it was a breakthrough. Um, this one I took more than I took the previous time. Um, and I didn't. It wasn't a bad trip, but it was like it was different. The 3 previous trips, like I was really happy, and I was really full of life and love and that kind of thing and connectedness and I loved that. That was a great feeling to have. Um, but when you're trying to do something hard, a lot of times the easy routes aren't the way to get there, and this was 100% a reality in my adventure here. So I took more than I did the previous 3 times, and I had like this sense of uh like I went into my unconsciousness and I tried to see, okay, what do I have to do to quit smoking? Because this is one of my main goals with taking mushrooms. Of course, the other side was the spiritual kind of side, um, you know, uh, which maybe I'll make another video about. But for right now in this video, I'm talking about quitting smoking, and yeah, so it's kind of like, I was in my basement and I had all the lights off, and I have a workshop which I'm in right now, in my basement here, where I do my writing, make the podcasts, I do woodwork. My table saw's right behind me. You can't see it, but I do a lot of work in here. It's just my workshop. Whatever I'm working on, this is where I do it. Um, but when I was tripping the fourth time, this was like kind of my hut. Like I kind of felt like a primitive person, um, with like an indigenous person or a caveman, even like either a cave or this is my hut or my teepee or whatever you want to call it. And outside of it was what was the wilderness, the unexplored wilderness, which turned out to be the unexplored wilderness of my mind. Um, and while I was in my workshop, I felt really good and safe. But I knew that I didn't want to just feel good and safe. I wanted to be able to um, explore the outer territory that I was unfamiliar with. And because of the nature of psychedelics, what I found out is the darker the better because you're able to see the visual things um, a lot more clear. because when you're taking mushrooms, at least I can't speak for any other psychedelics. This is the only one that I've taken, but when you've taken enough, there's two realities, or what it seems like is two realities that kind of overlap that are like sitting on top of each other. You can see what's around you in this actual reality here, and then there's like almost another dimension or something where it's kind of like this geometric, like fractal kind of. Um, I can't really explain it, but I mean, type in on Google or YouTube or whatever psychedelic trip synthesizer or whatever, and that's kind of more or less what it is. Not exactly, but they do a pretty good job of getting close to it. Um, that being said, that's why I like to be in the dark, because I'm able to see that second kind of uh, dimension, and I don't even know if it's a dimension, if that's a proper term for it, but that's what I'm going to call it right now. And basically, what that is it could be probably like the contents of your mind, or I honestly don't know, real or not. Like, it seems like it could be both at the same time, and it probably is. I don't know. Um, so I was in my safe spot, and I came to the realization that as much as I'm doing a lot of good thinking in here, like whatever I need to learn is out there. Um, so I walked outside of my workshop, and this is complete darkness in my basement. Like, I can't see shit. Which I could see stuff, but just not from like this reality. And I'm walking, and I'm looking around, and I can see like all this stuff like kind of just doing what it does, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go that way. That looks kind of creepy or whatever. I'm gonna go that way. So um I start walking, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm in like a graveyard. Um and maybe not a graveyard, but I don't know what else to call it. So I'm gonna call it a graveyard. And I take a step, I take another step, and there's kind of like a room behind over here. And like around that corner, I saw these beings. Um, and I first described them as zombies. Um, they scared the shit out of me, man. Like, I saw them like I was looking at myself in this recording right now. Like, I felt, not even recording. Like, if there was two of me and I was sitting in front of me talking right now, that's how they were there. And it freaked me out because they looked grotesque. They looked like they were like falling apart, like decaying. And what it so when I saw them, and there was like 20 of them, they were all sitting together, and I saw them, and I was like, holy, and I turned around and I went to run, and I was like, no, I can't run, because this is what I wanted to see. This is what I need to understand. What are they going to tell me? Because from my understanding of how these things work, um, if you don't lean into these things, that's when you're going to have a fucked up time. When you're, whether it's your mind or whatever it is, um, shows you these things, if you try to run away from them, you'll have a bad experience. It'll be a bad time. Um, Especially with the intention that I had was like, I want to learn, whether it's myself or otherwise. I want to learn what this is all about. I want to learn uh, not only what this is all about, but can I get to the point where I can quit smoking, like I've read in a few different articles or whatever, in studies, from actual scientists too, not just like crackpot people. Like, these are legit studies that they're doing. Um, so back to the zombies, and I guess I still call them zombies because what as it turned out, what they were was people that had died from all the various illnesses that you would get from smoking cigarettes. So I don't even know what they all are, but and they looked like real dead people, and they told me, they're like, look, you need to quit smoking. If you don't quit smoking, you're going to be one of us. You're going to be sitting here with us. And that scared the living shit out of me. I already knew this though. I mean, it's not a secret what smoking does to the body. It's not a secret that you can die from smoking. Um, you know, so I already knew that that was going to be one of me. What one of them would be me eventually, if I continue to do this, if I continue to smoke cigarettes. But because I'm an addict, I'm addicted to cigarettes. In my mind, I'm like, what do I got to do to like get these people to be like, yeah, yeah, you're right. I need to go fucking smoke a cigarette right now. Like I'm like trembling. I'm scared. This is a scary situation to be in. What do I have to do to just like make them believe that I'll quit smoking? I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette right now. Um, but I came to the realization that I couldn't lie to them. That I had to. My question was, can I quit smoking this way? And the answer was yes, I can. But I need to do the work. So I had a party going on, that weekend, and I was like, "Look, I don't want to quit smoking this weekend. If you give me until after the party, like the night of, like once the last guest is gone, I'll quit smoking then." I'm like, "But I when I quit smoking, I get real frustrated really easily. I get snappy. I don't want to put everyone through that. My wife and kids can't stand to be around me when I'm trying to quit smoking. I don't want to do that to them. They don't deserve it. Can you please just let me have through the weekend? Once the weekend is over, I won't smoke anymore." Um, and they agreed. They're like, "Yeah, that's you're being sincere. You can definitely quit smoking. We'll give you the weekend." And I'm like, "All right." And then they vanished. Then I went back in here to my safe spot, and I started kind of thinking about. I was like, "Holy cow, that's like this is crazy. I'm really gonna start. I'm really gonna stop smoking." Uh, because of what I saw. I mean, it freaked me the fuck out. Like seriously, like it was real. It seemed real, like they were really there, and it was a real conversation that I had. There was more to it. I didn't. I was. It's not like I saw that and then I wasn't tripping anymore. Like I still continued the trip for the next few hours. Um, but that part of the trip was done. Um, and then between that time and the fifth time I tripped, um, I did stop smoking for like a day and a half, I would say, like a day and a half where I didn't smoke at all. And then slowly I started smoking more again. And the good thing was, like, I had these zombies in my waking brain, like my this reality brain. Um, every time I smoked a cigarette, I thought about this. And what it did was I didn't stop smoking, but I went from smoking a pack a day to smoking a half a pack or a quarter of a pack some days even. Like I mean it really had an impact on me where I was like I really need to start focusing on this. So, although I didn't succeed completely, I still felt like this is better than not not slowing down and continuing to smoke the same amount. So then um it was almost a month between that time and the fifth time, which gave me the result, the exact result that I was looking for, which is 7 days now. I haven't smoked a cigarette, um, and I really don't want to either. So that was the most the that trip was the highest dose that I took. That one, maybe I will go into. Maybe I'll make another video about each, like all the trips and like all the different things aside from quitting smoking. But this last trip was like the most intense. I would call it a definitely a bad trip. I thought I died. uh which turns out I'm still here. um but I'm not going to go into that today. But yeah, that was a shocker. But yeah, so then the at that point, the reason I went in between, because I was trying this, like trying to do like therapy sessions, like self administered therapy sessions with the mushrooms to get me to the point where I would quit smoking. And as I'm leading up to this and everything, I'm taking more and more because I realize like this small amount's not going to do it. Like that's not how transformation is going to happen in this regard. So I took I would call it a heroic dose. And the reason it was so far in between the fourth time and the fifth time was because I was afraid to see the zombies and have them, be mad at me for not quitting smoking again. Um, Although I did make I was very happy with the progress I made. It wasn't a full pack a day anymore. That was not not good enough. Like, it was good enough. I wouldn't. Clearly I wanted to smoke. I wanted to smoke no cigarettes a day, but I was happy with the progress that I made. But I was afraid that, like, okay, if I trip again and I didn't quit, these fuckers are gonna come back, and they scared me before. Who the hell knows what's gonna happen next time? Um, but I came to the point where I was like, okay, if I continue this way, even though, like, I'm not smoking as much as I did before, I'm gonna continue to, like, gradually increase until I'm back to where I was or more. And I didn't want to do that. So I was like, you know what? I gotta take this, I gotta do this again. If they're there again, I gotta just accept it and, work it out. Like, cause it did help. It did help. That first conversation with them did help. So I knew, you know, any subsequent conversations would also help. Um, they weren't there. This was a completely different, not completely different. It was pretty similar, but the zombies were not there. But what was there was, I was like, okay, I want to quit smoking, but I'm gonna smoke a cigarette right now while I'm tripping, and that is going to put me in the mind frame that's going to be introduced into my body, and then the chemicals in the cigarettes or whatever is going to kind of make me trip a different way, or whatever was how I thought about it. So as I'm smoking this cigarette, I take a drag, and I'm like, God, this is disgusting. What the hell is? And I'm like looking at this cigarette, and I'm like, what? This isn't even a cigarette. And I'm like, I know this is my last cigarette. I pulled it out of the pack. Like, I know this is a cigarette. It doesn't look like a cigarette. And it sure the hell doesn't taste like a cigarette. But this is fucking gross. And I kept taking drags. Like, what is this? Like, what does this even taste like? I don't know this taste. Like, it doesn't feel like. I was like, this. I was like, ugh, gagging as I'm like trying to figure out what I'm smoking. And that ended up being the last cigarette that I smoked. And I can honestly say that yes, I have stopped smoking cigarettes. And like I said before, is I really understand. I feel that I did. Like before, when I thought I did, I was just kind of buying time until the morning when I would smoke again. Like, that's not even in my mind at all. I know without a doubt in my mind I quit smoking, and I know that it was 100% because of the therapy sessions that I took with psilocybin mushrooms. So again, I'm not advising anyone to take mushrooms or any other psychedelics. Um, but I did want to share my story because I feel like it's pretty remarkable that happened the way it did. Also, on a side note, which is not one of my original intentions, is I used to get headaches really bad. Um, and they would be really sharp, like right in the, like, behind my eye, not migraines, but like right behind my eyes, kind of in the same area that you would get a migraine. And they were like debilitating, and they only lasted between like 10, 15, 30 seconds, and I would get them like multiple times a day, where like I couldn't do anything. I had to like close my eyes, and I would have to sit there and like kind of rub my eyes and just wait for them to go away. It felt like my head was about to explode. Um, and then it would subside quickly. I mean, under a minute they were gone. But I would have them like up to like 10 times a day, every single day, for as long as I could remember. I called them my temperature headaches because it seemed like I would get them primarily when I went from one temperature to another quickly. So, for instance, if I was like walking down the block and it was hot and humid outside, and then I went into a store with air conditioning, I would get this excruciating headache, um, where I would have to literally stop moving, kind of push on my eye, like my eyebrow area, like right up, my eyebrow, and I would have to sit there and kind of rub myself until it went away, and then I'd be fine, and I would go about, my business. I've had these headaches for years, and I never went to. I'm not a doctor kind of guy. Like, I'm not a medicine kind of guy. I'm not a doctor kind of guy. I'm not, and I'm not. Maybe as I get older I will be, but I'm not currently, and I wasn't in the past. So I never got my headaches diagnosed or anything like that. Um, they they didn't, aside from being frequent and painful. It didn't really seem like it bothered my. I could still walk. I was still able to function as long as the headaches weren't happening, and they weren't getting, like, they were consistent where I would get them X amount of times a day, um, and then they wouldn't be there, and I'd be fine. So I never really looked into it, and I'm kind of a person where I believe that pain is a necessary thing for life, and that if you can't uh, learn to deal with physical pain, life is just going to be hard for you. Because there's going to be a point where you can't do anything about the pain, that whether it's physical or emotional. There's going to be a point where you might not be able to do anything with that pain, and you're going to have to deal with it. So what I try to do is I try to just kind of deal with the pain that I have when I have it, so that when I can't do anything about it, I it's just another thing in the course of my day. Um, so yeah, I don't know what the headaches were. Um, I never like did any kind of research on them, because I figured, what the hell, I'm clearly still here every day, living my life. So they're not like life threatening or anything like that, or I didn't think they were anyway. But my point in bringing up my headaches is that since the first time I took the psilocybin mushrooms, I haven't had those headaches. I don't know if it has to do with blood flow, or stress, the amount of stress. Because the other thing is, I'm like not looking. There's a lot of things about my life that I'm just completely, um, I don't want to say different, but more focused and more, kind of centered around, um, which is another really good benefit that seems to be something that's not fading. Um, but yeah, so I thought it was really interesting that these headaches went away, and that I haven't had them for going on. I don't know. It was June 23rd, I believe, when I took my first one. Yeah, my first trip was June 23rd. It is now August 28th, and I haven't had these headaches that I had for years, for every day for years since I took mushrooms. So that's another thing that, maybe the scientists can kind of figure out. This is a lot longer than I'm normally doing, and it's kind of a topic that I didn't really expect to talk about, but I'm blown away by what happened and how it happened and everything. Um, so I wanted to get this one out and talk to people about it, because I feel like it is very important, that everyone at least hears the story. Again, I'm not recommending anyone taking illegal drugs. I'm not recommending anyone self medicating. I'm not recommending anyone do anything of that sort. Um, but I want to. I have a feeling that this will be uh, a new thing in psychotherapy, and I want to kind of be out in front of it and just say, yeah, it worked for me 100%. What I wanted to quit smoking, I quit smoking. Um, I had headaches. I don't have headaches anymore. Uh, those particular headaches. So that's kind of really remarkable as well. And again, that was not something that I was going for. It just happened, and I noticed it like throughout this whole experience. It was like, holy shit, I haven't had these headaches. It's awesome. I wonder. I can only say that, I can only guess that the mushrooms had something to do with the headaches going away, because I haven't done anything different. I did quit smoking in 7 days ago, but I haven't had my headaches for 2-3 months by now, so I can't 2 months, right? Yeah, just over 2 months. So the only thing different that I did in those 2 months was take mushrooms. So I have to expect that that's why my headaches aren't there anymore. Um, but yeah, I might do another video kind of talking more about the spiritual aspect of it, or like what I found doing these mushrooms or anything like that. But I'm not sure, because it's not really what I wanted to talk about, and I don't want to glamorize these things, although I do think they're very beneficial in the right circumstances with the right people. Um, so yeah, next time I might do another video about my experience with mushrooms, but I wanted to specifically talk about, I'm very proud that I haven't smoked. I'm very, very proud of that. I've been smoking for 22 years, and I can say that I haven't smoked in 7 days, and I know that it's going to continue. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. If you like this one, please let me know. Um, Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to. Uh, yeah. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.